Welcome to Real Love 101. 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 Class is now in session. We breaking the misconception of love. Class is now in session. We breaking the misconception of love. Welcome to Real Love 101. Welcome to Real Love 101. Welcome to Real Love 101. Welcome to Real Love 101.
What's up, family? Man, we made it to this first episode. I am Clifton Brantley, in case you didn't know. And we're going to have some fun. Well, it's going to be fun to me. I don't know if it's going to be fun to you. But this is the first episode of this new podcast that I started called Marriage in Real Life. Probably knew that because you just saw that that thumbnail that I just put up. So I decided to do this podcast because I wanted something different from my for what I normally do, right? So, welcome to my first episode, and let me give you some. So you may be asking why with all these podcast shows out here about relationships and marriage, why another one? Now you may be asking, do we need another marriage podcast? Or you may not be asking that, but I'm gonna tell you. All right. So for me, number one, it's what I do. Right. I am a marriage therapist. Like I'm licensed by the state of Texas to do marriage work, and I'm a coach. Okay. Now there are a lot of relationship gurus out there. Most of which, well, I don't know about saying a lot of them, you should not be listening to. Now, I'm not saying that you should be listening to me. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying there are some people you should not be listening to because they're only going to help you become miserable, right? The truth is, I've heard some really good sound bites over the years, and I've heard like, you get on social media and someone will be saying something. I've heard a lot of that kind of stuff from preachers, motivational speakers, and influencers, right? But the difference with me, and when I say the difference, I'm not making this difference as if I'm better than anyone. I would never do that, right? But the difference with me is that what I do as far as helping couples have healthy marriages is not a side hustle for me. Okay, and I'm not disparaging or knocking anybody who, like, this is a side hustle. Like, I believe everybody should. If you got folk following you, I just want you to, teach the right stuff. But, I'm not only that. But I'm talking about me and my podcast. I actually study relationships, like how science and psychology say they're supposed to work, and then how God says they're supposed to work, right? It's what I do with my life. So that's number one. It's what I do. But number two, well, that's one. That's two. So number two is because I really haven't found anyone that is actually a relationship expert, a follower of Christ, but down to earth, and willing to talk about real issues of marriage without the fluff of romance or the bleach of religion. I hadn't seen that. Now, I have seen some really good podcasts, like husbands and wives who've been through things. They've been through a lot of stuff, and now they've come through that, and they're helping people. Telling people how they did that. I've seen that, and I've seen, again, some pastors speaking on relationships. They may have a marriage conference or something, and they talk about relationships. But my goal with this podcast is to, number one, help marriages heal and grow. All right, that's the number one goal, to help marriages heal and grow. And then number two, to help couples understand the significance of God's design for marriage. Number three, I'm going to say it this way. I want to steal, kill, and destroy people's fantasies about love and marriage so that we can create real, strong marriages. And then number four, to make the folk who are not married yet, but they're considering getting married, make them think twice. That's what I'm gonna do. So here I am, right? Now I can tell you I don't really have a set structure just yet on how I want this show to go. I can tell you I plan on being relaxed. I plan on being me. That's authentic. And if you followed me for a while, I am going to be embracing the fact that I may lose my train of thought. I'm gonna try not to, but I'm me. I lose my train of thought at home. So it ain't just with y'all. But one thing you're gonna get is authenticness, right? So in this first episode, I was like, what I want to talk about in the first episode, because I've talked about so much and I have so many things to talk about. But in this first episode, what did I think? What would be, what would serve the people well? And so here's what I thought about. I want to talk about some of the main things that make marriage difficult off the bat. I just did a video not long ago on, I think it was called "Nobody Told Me Like Marriage Was This Hard" or something to that effect. And I talked about some things, but I want to talk about, and I'm only going to talk about 3 because I don't want this episode to be too long. But give you 3 things, and trust me, there are many. There are many, but I'll give you 3 things that make marriage difficult. Okay, so now this first one I'm going to talk about, I'm not sure if it is the number one reason, but it is high on it's high on the list. Okay, I'm not saying it's number one reason, but it is high on the list. Here it is: thinking that your idea of marriage is what marriage is supposed to be. That that doesn't sound like that would be one of the most difficult one of the things that cause marriage to be difficult, right? Yeah, your idea of marriage is probably sabotaging your marriage because see, there's a difference between your idea of marriage and your reality. So what I tell people all the time. Sorry, my hands was ashy, and I didn't want to just leave it like that. And we're live, so I tell people all the time, you have to divorce your idea so that you can stay married to your reality. But most folk divorce their reality because of an idea or a fantasy. I'll say it another way. You have to get rid of the fantasy in your head so you can learn to love the stranger in your bed. We are so confused. What should a wife be? What should a husband be? Turn my headphones up. There we go. As a matter of fact, can I take them off? I thought I was going to need them, but I think I'm going to take them off. What I think I've gotten so used to not wearing them. I used to love wearing them, and now not so much. So now we know. Next time live, no headphones. But what should a wife be? What should a husband be? How should a husband care for a wife? See, I tell people all the time, folk don't want to believe me. Nobody marries who they think they marry. No, nobody marries. You did not marry who you thought. You fell in love with the idea of who they are. And then you created a fantasy in your head. Or what's even worse, when you met them, you already had a fantasy. And now since you guys are married, you've been spending the marriage trying to fit them into a box that wasn't designed for them. Right? You still live you're living on Fantasy Island. And while you're on Fantasy Island, your marriage is falling apart because you won't accept the reality that you chose. You chose it. They tricked me when we got married, and they was this way, and then now they were that way. I don't know if that's true, right? But what I will say is this: more than likely, it's not. You just hadn't seen what you see now. Now there are some people who flat out lie. I love God, and then you get married. No, I was just kidding. Like somebody that actually happened, I was shocked. But most of the times, you just hadn't known. You just don't know them well enough because what you're seeing in year 5 was in there day 1. Maybe you just didn't see it, or maybe you saw it, saw that red flag, and like, we can. That's not that big of a deal. I can overlook that. Whatever the reason, you are living in fantasy instead of reality. That's going to hurt you because what I tell people is your differences. I learned this about 9 years ago when I was talking to my supervisor. But The magic within a couple actually happens in our differences. Us being not just men and women, but our uniqueness, that's what makes the relationship special. But that's the thing we fight against. I need you to love the way I love. I need you to think the way I think. Fantasy. And then you think that you know the way that your partner is behaving is because of you. The reason your partner is acting the way they're acting is not because of you, right? Uh, if they were married to someone else, they'd be doing the same thing. They would be doing the exact same thing. So, like I talked about this recently. I used to blame my wife for not loving me as much as I love her because she wasn't sharing as much as I was sharing. When I say sharing, I mean talking, right? Just talking about my day, talking about my life, talking about my childhood. I just talk. And so intimacy is about knowing and being known, right? I can't know you, you can't know me if we don't share. So because I'm a sharer and because I'm a huge, or yeah, I'm gonna just say it, I'm a huge fan of love. I'm like, I love you. So I'm gonna share my life with you. I'm gonna share. But then when you're not sharing, I'm like, well, she must don't love me as much as I love her. But then I realize, so number one, that's a fantasy. But I didn't know it was a fantasy. But here's what I discovered. I wasn't being open and honest and sharing with my wife because I love her. I was doing that because that's who I am. That's what I do. If I was in another relationship, if it was a first date, I would be sharing. Now, I may not share as much, but I share. So, in me being Clifton, I'm thinking that it's because I love her. And so then if I think that, I automatically think if she's not doing, it's because she don't love. Not true. That happens in a whole lot of areas in our marriages. And you have to divorce the idea in your head so that you can learn to love the stranger in your bed. And your spouse will never be the person that's in your mind. It's not possible. Do you understand? You guys both have different internal dictionaries. Like, so you'll never live in the same world. Your world only exists in your mind. It doesn't exist anywhere else on the planet. Only in your mind. And so, because your two worlds will never be the same, automatically you guys can't understand each other. It's like you may have the same words in your dictionary, but they don't mean the same things. When your partner's talking to you, you think you understand what they're saying, but you don't. So when they speak, you interpret what they're saying based on your own dictionary. And if y'all hadn't talked about that and got an understanding, both of y'all, like you guys, you say you're talking about marriage, you say you're talking about partnership, or you say you're talking about quality time, but y'all don't mean the same thing. And because you don't know you don't mean the same thing, you guys start doing life, and it's like, hey, I thought you said you wanted quality time. I do want quality time, but you're not ever available. I'm always available. Let's do this. That's not quality time. And so we fight because we think we was on the same page, but we never was. That's why, because that's fantasy. And that makes marriage difficult. Just if you sign up for school, let's say you're gonna go to college, and it's your first time in college, but you're grown, right? But it's first time in college, so you're gonna take uh, general classes because you got to get acclimated to going to school again, right? So you take the basic math, the basic English. You get in class first day of math because you have expectations, right? And next, and number one, they give you a test that surprises you. But what's more surprising is the test is a trigonometry test. Wait a minute. I thought this was basic math. How surprised would you be? Uh, Not only how surprised would you, but how unrealistic would it be for you to sit in class and fuss at the teacher saying, not that I'm in the wrong class, but you teaching the wrong thing. That's what we do in our marriages, right? It's not that I see wrong, you are being wrong. Get out of your head and learn to love the stranger in your bed. Another major contributor to the demise of healthy relationships, healthy marriages, y'all not gonna like this one. Romance. I know. I know. Romance. Why does romance cause marriage to go sideways? It's not that romance is bad, but it is in our culture, we have elevated romance above actual love. And now we think that love is whatever makes me feel good. Love is pleasure. Love is not pleasure, right? Romance is fun. Romance is good. I like romance. But when the thing that you chase after is romance, you're going to hurt yourself. So I saw a video today. Someone sent me a video of these people was talking about the 5 love languages. And I listened to it and I said, man, I need to do another video on the 5 love languages, because this is the type of thing that when people depend on the idea of love languages to get love to them or whatever, it's the kind of thing where, like, if you have anxiety and you take anxiety medicine, it makes the symptoms go away, but it doesn't fix anything. That's what the love languages do. The love languages, if you and I've had people do a consultation with me. And then they say, he don't speak my love language, or she don't speak my love language. And I will tell them, well, I'll do my spiel on love languages, right? And they won't sign up because they'd rather hold on to their fantasy of what they think they believe. And this is how marriage should work versus like actual reality. But anyway, so romance is not meant to be the end all be all. So love languages, I was talking about love languages. Love languages are primarily about you feeling good. Would you agree with that? Acts of service, words of affirmation, gifts, quality time. I forgot the other one. Physical touch. All those things I like them, right? But you can't elevate that to the place of love, because see, we humans thrive on love. We need love, but we don't understand what love is. And so then because of that, we bring romance into our marriage. And so then watch this, when the romance dies, we think the marriage is dying. So then the wife will be like, take me on a date, buy me some flowers, buy me a card. And all those things are good. I think it's good to do that. But if I do that, that does not mean I love you more. But see, when you think that, you are going to hurt yourself. So many people are miserable in marriage because they think their partner doesn't love them at the appropriate level because their partner is not doing the love language stuff. Think about this. If love languages were real, like if it is true that I can determine, y'all ain't gonna like this at all. If I can determine what love is to me, so I'm gonna determine what love is to me, and then I'm gonna go find somebody that knows how to hit my target. But they've been practicing on somebody else's target who made up what love looks like to them. So now everybody has an idea of what love is. I tend to lean towards what God said. And God does not speak my love language. God doesn't speak my love language. As a matter of fact, here's what Jesus said. God himself said, greater love has no man than this, than to buy his wife flowers. That's not what he said. Greater love has no man than this, than to give her husband sex whenever he wanted. That's not what it's. He said, greater love has no man than this, than to lay down his life for a friend. In other words, Jesus said, the greatest display of love is the greatest sacrifice. Words of affirmation, I'm not sacrificing anything. And it's not doing anything for you. And when if I have to give up my life, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy? No. because warm and fuzzy is not necessary. I was talking to a client, and she was like, brother, I hear you, and that's I said she said, I think I agree, but us women are emotional, and that's gonna be hard to swallow. And I said, well, I said, first thing, all humans are emotional. Women don't have more emotions than men. Women in our culture are allowed more expression of their emotions than men, but they don't have more or less. But also, it's not a woman thing, because if it was a woman thing, then how you explain Sarah? I'm talking about Abraham's wife. Like she wasn't, as far as we can understand in scripture, right? We don't know everything about their life, but I don't think that she was, you hadn't taken me to the market square to see a new well, they have movies, but you get what I'm saying, right? My point is this: romance is good, but we've elevated it to the place where it's the primary thing, it's the most important thing. You are going to hurt yourself, because when you think, if you think that this water, it's a clear liquid and it's in the refrigerator and it's in a water bottle but it don't have a label. When you think that this bottle is full of water but it's full of poison, that's dangerous. It's extra dangerous because it looks like something that you need, but it's not. That's what these whole love languages and romance, and don't miss the message. I'm not anti-romance at all. I'm really not. Most of my life, I've been the quote unquote romantic guy doing stuff. But watch this. I was doing that to impress, not to love nobody. I was doing that trying to impress people. So here's what I want you to do: adjust your idea of what love is. Well, actually, no, don't do that, because I'm gonna teach you what love is. Not today, but I'm gonna teach you what love is. But just change your idea of, rearrange your the order of romance in your life so that it's not the primary thing. Because here's another thing about why love languages can't be real love is based on how you feel, right? But how you feel is primarily controlled by you, not your partner. How you feel is based on what you interpret based on what they do. It's not based on what they do. My wife buy me a new monitor. My excitement about that monitor is going to depend on me, not her. It doesn't matter how long I wanted it. So y'all, I want an F-150. If my wife, that's not a good example. That's not a good example. That's not a good example. Because if my wife bought me an F-150, it's going to be impossible for me not to be excited. We could have just had a fight. She could have just finished shooting at me. Pum, pum, pum. I'm sorry, here goes the F-150. You shot at me yesterday? I don't even remember. That's that's how it would be. So, but you get my point. Don't let the fact that your husband or your wife isn't making you feel good determine that they don't love you. That's not an indication of love. It's just not. And that makes marriage difficult, because you take, so how you feel is your responsibility, but you put it in the hands of your partner. I'm not gonna stay on that one, because I'm gonna stay on a little while longer. Valentine's Day. I did a video not long ago say Valentine's Day is not for love is not for Valentine's Day. Folk didn't like that. How do I know? Well, because some folk emailed me, but it's not. Valentine's Day is just about, hey, I appreciate you. I want to make you feel good, but it is not an indication of your love. So let me tell you, without doing a deep dive on and teaching love, let me tell you one of the ways, because I don't think this is the only way, but one of the ways you can recognize love. When life is happening to you, when life is difficult, that's when love shows up. Love, real love, is primarily for the purpose of meeting needs. So the reason we humans thrive on love is not because it feels good. It's because so remember when a lawyer asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself. So Jesus said the greatest commandment is relationship slash love. And then the guy said, well, who's my neighbor? Then Jesus gave an example of the Good Samaritan. We call it the Good Samaritan, right? When you read that story, that's the picture of love Jesus painted. Sacrifice. When life happens, I'm there. That's what love does. Like I tell folk all the time, you don't need love to go to Vegas. You can go to Vegas with a stranger and have a blast. But when you're in the hospital and you got tubes in you, you need your loved ones there. Because if nobody's there, that's when you feel like a failure, or you feel like your life is nothing, or that's when you feel alone. And here's some, let me share this on this. I'm gonna chase this one rabbit. Let me make sure I'm gonna chase this one rabbit. How much time? I'm gonna chase this one rabbit. This is a thought that I'm developing. Now, some of you may be smarter than me, right? Some of you other relationship experts, if you happen to pass by this and you may be smarter than me. But here's what I was thinking. Children are driven by how they feel, right? Children are driven by how they feel. When little children get to the planet, they need to feel your love. That's why they need to play. They need to have fun. That communicates love to them. Now, all of us humans, chase pleasure and pursue pleasure and push away pain, run away from pain, right? That's a human thing. But children, they need that fun. They need that. So one way children translates love is from time spent together. But children don't understand quality time. So it's not the quality time that makes them feel good. It's just the attention. God designed us that way. You like attention too, right? So when you spend time and you give attention to your children, it makes them feel good. This is also the reason why you can be a good parent. Let's say it's a single mom. And because she's a single mom, she has to work a lot. And so she's not around. The child may interpret that as unloving because it don't feel good. But mom is full of love for the child. But the child is driven by how they feel, right? So they don't really have a choice. They're not mature enough to understand love. However, once you get grown, I'm not convinced. Y'all really not gonna like this, because I ain't like it. When I'm not convinced that as an adult, I need, keyword need, I need to feel love from my wife or anybody else. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that I need to feel it. I need to know it. Because as an adult, I'm not driven by my feelings anymore. But what the love languages do, they introduce, hey, be driven by your feelings. So now if your partner don't treat you a certain way, you can't feel a certain way. Without going into my story, I disproved that in my own life this week. A couple of days ago, I was in a bad place. Something happened. The only thing that changed on the whole planet, do you understand what I'm saying? The entire planet, the only thing that changed was my mind. And I did a 180. And why's my eye jumping? I'm not lying, Emma. Did I say so? My eyes started. Lord, that's true. Lord, that did happen. Now, come on. Anyway, so I know that it just takes a quick shift, and it wasn't based on how I feel. It was based on what I knew. If you are driven, if you need your partner to make you feel good, you're going to hurt yourself. You're in trouble. Client says, we getting ready to go out of town on a trip, and I'm not excited about it. Now watch this. The reason she wasn't excited about it is because in her mind, she has a history of trips not going well. And it was years ago. But here's what I asked. Why aren't you excited? Excitement is your responsibility. Are you telling me that you can't be excited about life unless your partner does something special for you? You in trouble. If you're going on a trip, get excited. Find something and get excited about. Get excited about the fact that, I'm going to be out of Houston. I get to go on another plane ride. If you can't get excited about because you are projecting to the future, and so you're thinking it's going to be bad. Okay, well then don't think about that. But you can make yourself feel excited if that's what you need. And so all that your partner's doing or not doing that makes you feel bad. I'm not talking about when they're actually mistreating you, but when they're making you feel bad and doing all that stuff. Don't let that control you. You can, like I tell folk, don't give your partner your validation remote. Keep your own remote. You need to, because, so here's the thing. God loves me 24/7. I don't feel God's love. I know it. And then when I think about it, right? When I think about it, I know my Pentecostal friends wanted me to say, when I think of the goodness of somebody already shouting. I'm not going there, right? But when I think about God, then I feel something, but that's not his love. Those are my thoughts telling me about his love. Here's what I'm telling you. I know this is next level maturity, but if you continue to allow your feelings to guide you in how you understand love, you are going to hurt yourself majorly. So I'm gonna give you one more thing that makes marriage difficult: unrealistic expectations. You probably already do that, huh? But when I say unrealistic expectations, I'm not talking about your expectations for your partner to be romantic or like I'm not talking about you expecting your partner to be like you or to like what you like. Those are unrealistic expectations, but those are not the ones I'm talking about. The unrealistic expectations I'm talking about are the ones where you are completely convinced, and it's kind of connected to the other ones I shared. You're completely convinced of how marriage should work, how marriage should be. For example, uh, you want your partner, you want your husband to treat you with kindness and care and consideration the way he treats his sister, because he goes all out for his sister. Like that's his lady. But when he with you, it's like he can't be considerate. He won't even bring me a drink of water. You say, now how is that an unrealistic expectation? Because on the surface, it seems normal. But what I tell people is you don't see what you think you see, and you don't know what you think you know. So why is he doing that with his sister? Number one. Number two, are you sure that he is doing what you are saying to his sister? See, what you see is him being considerate, but what he's actually doing is being afraid. On the outside, it looks like consideration. On the outside, it looks like genuine sacrifice, but really, it's people pleasing. Really, he don't really know how to be what you're asking. He's pretending over here. So are you saying then you want him to come over here and pretend with you? You're going to sniff it out. You're going to be like, I don't want that. Now you're faking, because see, in your eyes, it looked like it's genuine over there. He's all talkative with his coworkers, but when he came home, he don't talk. Why? Obviously, he knows how to talk. So maybe there's something else going on, something other than I don't want to talk to you. See, because when we make it up in our heads, when we don't get clarity or understanding, we make it up in our heads, and we're going to make it up the worst. And so him not loving me is better than he's afraid to say the wrong thing, because over the years when we fought, he don't want to lose control. And I'm making it up, but you get there. My point is there's another underlying reason, but you're judging your partner based on what you see, not asking any questions. Those are the unrealistic expectations. If I can be considerate, why can't he? Why can't she? Right? How about when you want your wife to tend to you like she tends to her father at Sunday dinner? Y'all go to her parents' house every Sunday after church, and mom is kind of a little disabled, so your wife is serving dad like he's a king, and you see that and you're like, I can't get none of that at home. I'm not saying that you can't. Here's the it's not unrealistic. Okay, let me be clear. It's not necessarily unrealistic for you to want that, but for you to expect it. Number one, expect it without communicating it with her. Like, is this an expectation we agreed on? See, with her and her dad, she already know what the expectation is. There's history, years of history there. And that's not an excuse, but what I'm saying is talk to your wife. Don't just assume because she's doing it over there and she's not doing it for you, it's because she don't respect you. That might be true, but it might not be true. And here's another reason why, not necessarily unrealistic expectations, but expectations in general. You want to be careful with them. Here's why. The more expectations you have, the more muffled your love will be. The more expectations you have, the more muffled, the more your love will be modulated. Why? Because you expect something from them. And when they don't give it to you, you feel some kind of way. Think about this. Have you ever noticed the EMS worker or the firefighter who comes out to, somebody call the police because guy's in the yard being belligerent. He's drunk. And now he done passed out. So they call the ambulance. But when the ambulance get there, he wakes up and he's cognizant, but he's still out of it. So he cursing the firefighter out. He cursing the EMS worker out. How can they still do their job without being fazed by what he's saying? Because they don't need anything from him. They don't need him to be respectful for them to do what they're doing. They don't need him. They don't need anything from him. They don't expect him to compliment them. Now, if he do, great, but that's not. So in the same way, you serving your partner, but you expect whatever, it's going to change how you love them, how you express your love. Because eventually, you're going to find yourself walking in pride. Right? So be careful with your expectations. They most of them are unrealistic. And like I said, Dr. Rick Mark says, the only expectations that are acceptable in marriage are the ones we both agree on. And you brought a whole lot of expectations with you based on your fantasy. And you're mad because she won't cook. He won't take me on a date. She won't give me sex. He won't touch me. She won't she won't take care of the kids by herself. She always asking me to help. He won't help with the kids. He won't help around the house. Listen, I'm not saying any of those things are bad. I'm not saying any of those things cannot be a part of your marriage. But when you elevate them to the place of need, you're going to injure each other. Unrealistic expectations, right? So let me ask you this. Had you, in the situation where you are asking your husband to do something, like you have an expectation of your husband or your wife, right? Have you previously told them how, let's say you're crying, you're in the house crying. He comes in, he sees you crying, but he doesn't say anything. He just kind of closes the door and lets you have your space. And then you get upset. And then you come see me. He saw me crying and he didn't even say anything. He didn't hold me. He didn't comfort me. And they'll run down a whole list. And all the while I'm thinking, you told him that? How would you know that? Because I feel like I'm a very caring, self-aware, intentional sometimes kind of man. But the things you saying, I wouldn't have thought to do that. Now, if you told me, hey, when I'm crying, handle me like this. But see, we don't want to do that because we think, well, they should just know. Who told you that? You've been watching too many movies. That they don't know. Your partner was not raised to love you. They weren't raised to be the partner that you need. He should just know. How? Who who can read your mind other than you and God? And most times you can't read your mind. Right? One time tell this story. One time I had a couple, and the wife was, so they was in both of them in the bedroom, right? Wife is on the floor, husband's in the bed. I think the husband may have been reading or something. And the wife starts saying, babe, I'm having chest pains. And he didn't get up out the bed to get down on the floor to see what was going on with her. Okay. He said, what's going on? She said, I don't know. It's just hurting. And he said, well, you want me to get you some? You want some water? And she kind of like, no. And he was like, well, what do you need? She's like, nothing. Now they can't see each other. They're just talking. And so he goes back to, what are you doing? And then next thing he know, wife is giving him the silent treatment. And he is clueless as to like why what's up with her. So finally, when she tell him, she says, I could have been dying. And you didn't even get out, you couldn't even get out the bed to come check on me. And as I'm listening, I'm like, oh, this baby done made up a whole story in her head. If that's what you wanted, no issue with that. But if this situation had never it had never happened before, how is he gonna just automatically know? See, here's what we think. We think when we meet somebody, and this is how you get tricked, like on those first, second dates, and then you think that's reality, and then the rest of your marriage and life, you're trying to get that back. We think that when we meet somebody and we click, they know how to touch us. They know just how to kiss us. They know how to give us space to ask questions. Like the things they know how to do those things. You think, oh, God sent them. That's not the indication. It could be just a coincidence. I tell folk this too. You have sex with somebody and it's amazing. Like, oh my goodness. Now you think, oh, he knows my body. They don't. That was an accident. Y'all are strangers. So then when y'all get in a relationship and the sex starts to die, like, hey, this is boring. This is not good. In the beginning, it was a lot of that was based on your fantasy. Do you understand? Why am I going this way? I'm gonna just say this real quick part because I mentioned sex. Do you understand that the quality of the sex you have, the quality of the sex you have is based on you, not your partner. It's based on what's going on in your mind, how you're processing the experience. How do we know? Because you can't. If you can have that's not for kids. If you can have an orgasm by yourself without touching yourself, like you can close your eyes and if you think hard enough, you can have an orgasm. If that's possible, you think that the physical feeling that you're having is what's making this amazing? No. And that's probably why it was so great in the beginning, because you were so high on dopamine or whatever those chemicals in there, right? Yeah, I don't study that part because I don't do that kind of psychology. But you high on that, and so it made it more amazing. And I'm not saying that sex is not good. My point is this. You put so much pressure and responsibility on your partner to make your life good. God didn't tell you to do that. Your life is yours. He gave it to you to make great. Your partner's there to help. Help what? Help you do whatever assignment God gave you, and really to love you. But not love you, because I didn't say this when I was talking about the love languages. Not love you based on on what you think is love. Children think love is candy. Give them candy all day, every day, see how well they develop. That's unloving, even though it feels good. Right? Here's what wisdom says. This is what I believe. Wisdom says, instead of trying to teach your partner how to love you so you can feel it, why don't you learn how they love and then look for that in your relationship so you'll know they're loving you. So you'll know they're loving you, not feel it. I'm telling you, it's good to feel love. But if you need that, it is an indication that you are emotionally immature. I know. You don't like it. Me neither. But that's what it is. Because I'm not convinced that you need to feel it. Okay? So, anyway, let me end with this. Marriage is God's idea. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's my first show. We got to play the outro music. Is it playing? That's too loud. I can't hear it. It'll be right next time. But anyway, so listen. I think I'm gonna get another outro too. Anyway, listen. Marriage is God's idea. Marriage works the way God designed it to work. And when you do it His way, it has a 100% success rate. When God created Adam and Eve, or when God created Adam, and He said, it's not good for man to be alone. I'm going to create for him a helper. Didn't say a lover. Didn't say a friend. He didn't say somebody to blow my back. I'm sorry, that's still in my head it's an inside joke if y'all hadn't seen my other video. But He said a helper. If you don't remove the responsibility of your happiness and whatever other pleasure you want to name from your partner, you're going to destroy your marriage, right? You need to know that you're loved, and you love you. How about you taking care of you? Because I think it's unfair, disingenuous, and just ain't cool for you to try to get your partner to love you when you don't love you. You want them to respect you and you don't respect you. Come on now. It's not that you don't deserve respect. You still deserve it even though you don't do it. But don't be getting mad at them. Right? Listen, I hope that you experience the love of Christ. So then you will be made complete with all the fullness, all of the fullness, get your words out, sir, of life that comes from God. And man, I pray that from His glorious, unlimited resources, God will empower you with inner strength. All right? Y'all take care.